Okay, in this video, we're going to talk about how to go from 0 to 1 million in remote ARR in less than 12 months using the telescope approach, AKA the Global Venture Advisors Growth 2.0 framework. If you are trying to get to that first remote market million and would like to avoid the mistakes of a bunch of other B2B companies who grew in the US and Europe, then stick around. If you don't like flying blind into a new market and subscribe to the doctrine of going in with good market intelligence and overwhelming force, then you're in the right place. If you have anything above 15% of your revenue in that remote market, or 50% of your potential exit is there, then this is the video for you. So here are a few of the things that we'll cover today. We'll talk about rewards of compounded growth, using small teams like a startup, expansion frameworks, how and why to engage a niche, what a niche is, what a segment is, creating video sales letters so BDRs can cut through the noise, thinking in bets, using affinity networks, the importance of after parties, case and action flows, how to scale using free and paid methods, defining KPIs to build a profitable sales team, how to do all of this yourself, or how to do it with us, the features of Growth 2.0, and your options and some Q&A. So it's going to be probably one of the more meaty videos that we've done since the last session last video we had about a month ago on growing with AI. This one's going to be very focused on the tactics of going international. So before the pandemic, things were getting a bit out of control in this field of SaaS and deep tech and international market development. If you think about all the travel we all used to do, and for me, based here in the Netherlands, I would travel 10 times a year across the Atlantic, and physical meetings were for sure required. I always viewed visits as being a trigger, kind of a lever to help open up accounts, and big box events seemed to kind of make sense back then. But the pandemic has been a great leveler, and all that remains now is what we started with in the field of B2B, which is building a working product, getting product market fit, and being better than the competition. And then, of course, doing effective capital efficient sales, the meat and potatoes. So first of all, let me move this. So why do we put ourselves through this grinder to begin with? Well, that's a personal question. Everybody's got to answer that for themselves. But what I can say is that the lowest common denominator for founders and sales leads over a 5-year period is looking at the compounding impact of the value of equity and the value of commissions. I made this assessment early in the COVID days, so almost a couple of years ago, trying to inspire executives not to wait too long to get moving. Our thesis is that the earlier you test product market fit in your remote market under those conditions I described before, and can find a sales funnel that sustains your business, the more successful you'll be. If not, move on, focus on something else useful for the company. This video will share an approach to go from 0 to 1 million in remote ARR in the next 12 months using what Index Ventures calls the telescope approach. By the way, if you want to drill down into the metrics, we can share a spreadsheet with you and you can run your own numbers. But there's a big difference between 20, 30% or 50, 60% growth year over year. So the difference between Index Ventures portfolio companies who can expect a Series A of 10 million or more and follow-ons in the 20 to potentially hundreds of millions range is that we need to find an affordable and incremental approach. Index Ventures is one of the great cross-Atlantic VCs, and they put out an ebook describing successful US expansion strategies. This is a good one and can be read, and you can do a self-assessment in less than 20 minutes. The punchline is to use a small team to analyze the market and prepare the ground. And that in some cases, that should begin from the start. In other cases, it should begin after the company has established itself in its regional market. Since telescoping into a market is how they describe companies with huge potential in the US, where there are low boots on the ground needed, and because that approach is perfect for the pandemic, we'll cover that a lot in this video. But in this session, we've got we'll go two or three drill downs deeper. I'll share some real case studies and describe the main steps in an action flow to reduce your risk and be super capital efficient. Investing 4 to 6 months in a concentrated manner can change a company's trajectory. You might think you can't do it, or that you need to do a bunch of other things first, or that some people are going to judge you, or that you don't know me and you don't really care. But I'm here to share some stories where it worked, focusing mainly on scenarios of going to the US from Europe. The point is, you can do it. So the other thing is that markets are not going to get less noisy. We keep on thinking it's going to slow down. But when pandemia eases into whatever steady state it will, things are going to get more competitive, not less. So this video can help you get your head on straight for that. So again, US from Europe. A lot of these rules can apply Europe from US, also apply intra-European. We've worked with some companies, Japan, US, and so forth. So, but really we're going to focus there on the going from Europe to US scenario primarily in this, consistent with that Index Ventures report. So my guess is that the tactics we discuss here are the things that you're familiar with, but that you haven't put them together in this particular way. I also believe the next 30 to 40 minutes, you'll hear some essential stuff you can carry with you for the next 10 years and keep building a successful career in B2B tech. So the basic premise, don't wait, start now, but do it wisely. And once the unit economics justify it, scale it up. You may think that it would be better during the pandemic to stay local and expand existing clients, or that internal budgets are baked and there's no time. You don't want to be seen as a flip-flopper or distract your team. You're hedging and you think international may not fit your personal relationships, like your partner or your kids. But if you're an investor, you probably want more IRR and to help your portfolio companies. If you're a founder or sales lead, you want to be rewarded for risk. You want to learn new skills. You want to build a career, pay for the kids' college, buy a house, do more without ruining your personal life, make an impact while you're on this planet, solve climate change, help pay salaries, retain employees, or all of it. Hopefully, by the end of this video, whatever drivers and limiting factors there are, you'll be at ease about how to tackle remote markets. This is particularly a video for companies with lots of R&D or whose technology requires significant investment, like enterprise AI tech, where it takes 2 or 3 years to get the basics of machine learning working properly. Or suppose you have hardware, smart materials company, or some other out of this world technology. In that case, what you learn today is enough to seriously increase your company's market power and growth capabilities. So get your coffee or your tea, stick around, and I'll try to make this as helpful as possible to executives who are responsible for blowing out the international side of the business. First, let me share a few cases, and then we'll get into the approach. This is Torsten from Azeti. Before, Torsten and the Berlin HQ team had no presence in the US and no relationships with any of the global top 25 IoT gorillas in their space. By the time we finished, they were getting 25 cents on the dollar from Cisco, industrial router sales, and had an exclusive OEM partnership. They had 25 top IoT companies in the world and had tuned their product positioning to align with those ecosystems. They'd built a funnel with the Cisco partner network using a range of assets, including battle cards and videos. This meant having thousands of sales and solution engineers engaged in their sales process via Cisco's internal BD efforts and being showcased at their events. It was cool to see what it meant for raising their next round as well, and the future exit that they got to a German industrial back in Europe. Transformation 2. This is Marcel Smit. He's one of the more successful data tech CEOs in the Netherlands over the past decade, taking existing companies and making them work and exit. Hugo went from no US revenue to a solid outbound webinar video sales process by the time we were finished, going from no traction to closing 500 euro ARR in less than 5 months and building a great funnel. In the first month, we focused on outbound to just 5 top global accounts. We eventually closed 2 out of the 5, Bank of America and United Airlines. We almost got a third in Delta. After 12 months, this US activity helped to get them on the radar and trigger a 34 million euro exit. And the sales team grew by 50x overnight. The unicorn that acquired us, Right Now Technologies, created a new horizontal business development team selling specialized social and AI solutions via a motivated group of more than 30 BDRs and 50 AEs worldwide. Within 12 months, that company themselves exited to Oracle. Cinerise, the 200-person AI company out of Krakow that won Microsoft Country Partner of the Year in 2018, used a market development discovery process to engage directly in industry segments in Seattle, Chicago, and the Bay Area to get their act together before opening up their New York office. Algolytics, the location intelligence service from Warsaw, has some of the biggest AI deployments in Central Europe in the telecom and logistics industries. They used a pan-European campaign to focus on the logistics industry in food and delivery and package delivery, then created a video sales letter to expand the outbound process. Gravity R&D out of Hungary had a commercially proven deep learning service, one of the first of its kind in the world, for e-commerce, but was not sure how to position it vis-a-vis their traditional recommendation engine service they'd been doing for a decade. They were geographically spread thin in the US, in Europe, in the Middle East, in China, in India, with Disney. Our project used outbound and helped the CEO create a new VSL, video sales letter, that could be used to help cover the 500 companies in the US and 200 in Europe that they considered in their sweet spot. We've analyzed the patterns that worked and did not for 250 B2B companies that we either had as clients or that we showcased in a remote market. This began when I founded my own B2B company in the States before moving to Europe. If you think international markets and B2B take too long, or we already have a team there, or we have no budgets for this, or this is something for next year, I hear you. But we've tried a lot of things over the years, and hopefully some of this is useful. In less time than a lunch break, we'll try to help you get into the next tax bracket by building a sales process that could land remote flagship clients or partners like Essity, B of A, Apple, Fidelity, Disney Interactive, Dell, Intel, and Cisco, which is a short list of just some of the companies that the startups we worked with have gotten contracts with. Last week, I spoke to a Series D exec about whether this approach could help a 500-person company with their valuation leading up to an exit moment. Yes, the milestones reflect something about the company, and the exit markets are just segments of a different niche, which I'll talk more about in a bit. On the other side of things, a seed stage founder recently explained that Y Combinator this year seemed worth it, if only to get the right network for feedback on product market fit. So who is this presentation for? Well, at the essence of it, it's about SaaS companies with a working product that are scaling up. It's about deep tech companies where there's lots of R&D and investment required, and it's complex technology, but it's working and they're trying to scale up. Or execs from a range of stages of companies that are trying to revalidate something in their market. So if you are a SaaS company that wants to be more machine learning driven, both in your growth tooling as well as in the solutions themselves, and like brainstorming with people specialized in leveraging data, this is a good video for you. If you're a deep tech company with high R&D costs, but big impact on the world in terms of industry transformation, society, climate, health, all those things we want to see improved, but could use some help on how to use SaaS and AI and good tactics in your growth operations, then please continue watching this video. And finally, a new feature of what we do, if you're looking for young talent for your business, please reach out after this is over, since we've had more than 100 graduate students over the years get involved with companies. And we want to keep building an army of young AI and international business talent who can help you to make the impact you're looking to make. So, the breakthrough. What does it feel like before the breakthrough? Well, it's not idealistic. It's not visionary. It's meat and potatoes or fire and ice. You have a good product. You've tried some half measures, like trying some outbound, but the market seems noisy. Each month, you notice another competitor has raised another large round. You're confident, but time's ticking. Your brain's on overdrive. You're coping with the pressure to hit quarterly targets for new business and expand existing clients, not to mention avoid churn. You've got good product market fit in your current market and don't want to distract your existing team with unplanned tweaks to the sales materials or demo. You may have hired someone, but the honeymoon is over and they are not producing. You're reading books, you're listening to podcasts at night. You've made promises to stakeholders in your business, in your network, and there's only so much oxygen to go around. Your investors keep telling you to focus and stay disciplined. Anytime you bring up the international market, they bring an avalanche of advice, most of which sounds like stuff you've already heard or heard about. And you want to talk to more people, especially your peers, repeat entrepreneurs, people that have actually done it. You're worried if you overextend and mess up that they'll criticize you, call out your failure, or worse, that you'll be halfway up the mountain and only to realize that you haven't had time to analyze things properly. You don't have a sales process that generates the right leads or brings the right key customers at a price that makes any sense. You haven't had time to update the target list. You're technical enough to understand that product development, and you've got a direct line into the product development team. The marketing lead is ready to help you, but you aren't sure you know what USPs to use for the Facebook ads, and the marketing team keeps pushing for a budget to stop dabbling in inbound marketing and really do it. You're on the edge of a huge success. This is the company that's going to help you to retire, buy that cabin on the lake if you play your cards right. You know how to build support for resources, but you need a game plan and some capacity that you do not need to babysit. You are willing to do whatever it takes, even more with your partner and kids, and you see the progress other companies are making. Many of them are touching your market. They seem to be making progress around you. Your partner's open to relocating, but the kids will string you up if you take them from their friends. And you aren't talking about it at home too much. You want to wait until you've got more information to go on. Closing your eyes to the international competition does not work. You've seen that before. It didn't end well. You want to make the first move and expand into the market, but you don't want to ask your colleagues for time and resources if there's no raw data to go on, no game plan, no fallback if it falls flat. You want to shine a bright ray of light on the path ahead. And this is the year you're going to reach the summit. Paul Graham at Y Combinator says startups are companies designed to grow fast. The moment a company decides to go international is always fraught with internal debate and opinions. Product market fit and effective sales are indisputable and required to grow fast. You need a great product to start and good regional clients who will vouch for you. Then you need to produce leads at a cost that sustains a profitable business. The remote market moment provides a great moment in the company. It's creative, where you can bring cash and valuation to the business. Founders and sales leaders who want to establish themselves in the remote market need to focus resources, build one funnel at a time, using the insights they've gathered from relevant sources in the target market. Founders need to build a high converting VSL funnel, video sales funnel, and test it using outbound prospecting and develop a set of collateral, use cases, articles, a set of video assets. Finally, founders can scale using ads, VSL webinar funnel, marketing automation, plus a sales team, as well as what we like to call the after party, which is the relationship side of doing business. We'll just call that channel partner traffic and affinity networks. The process is complicated and few marketers can do this right. Few teams have the agility and the sufficient funnel building skills in-house to test and analyze and capture the context of that new market and need outside help. Even when the new market sales process clicks, integrating market learnings into the department leads needs to be done in a controlled fashion through periodic workshops that build upon the raw footage and help bring conclusions to the group for discussion. Global Venture Advisors has 10 years of experience teaching US-Europe funnel building and remote market development skills that actually work. If you are at an inflection point and want the growth opportunity to be substantiated in a new market, then stay tuned. A bit of background. I know you don't know me, probably, and I'm making lots of grandiose claims here. Just some background and a couple of stories, one US story and one Europe story to tell you why this is something that's sort of baked into me here. My name is Chris, and I'm the founder of globalventure.com, aka Global Venture Advisors. I spent 10 years in tech in the US and the last 10 helping entrepreneurs, mainly out of Europe, test and expand their international business. Growing up in the States, I had the stereotypical jobs. I was a newspaper boy at the Seattle Times. I was a grocery bag boy at Safeway, and so forth. Besides being obsessed with working efficiently so I could go hang out with my friends, the most notable thing I can think of was that Bill Gates' parents were on my paper route. So William Gates Sr. had the law firm that incorporated Microsoft in the 70s. And in 1986, the same year I was making $100 a month delivering newspapers 7 days a week, Microsoft went public. So I guess there's some dissonance in there somewhere for me. After graduating from UCLA, I finally got my first chance to work in tech at an internet service provider where I was the guy hand delivering disks to people's homes and installing email and bulletin boards. And that led to a job at IBM where I learned how to configure enterprise software, create centers of excellence, and took a lot of night school in computer science. Then I went back full-time and got my MBA at Berkeley. The last quarter of my second year, I met a Berkeley alum, Tim Albinson, who wanted to start a company. And he asked me to run product development. So he was talking about next generation bots and marketplaces. And I didn't know anything about either one of those things, but that sounded really interesting. And we worked out of a renovated apartment in the Marina District there in San Francisco and did outbounds, built collateral, pitched, built a beta, grew to 10 or 15 people, and then we ran out of money and everyone left. I'm going to bring back this slide of climbing the wall of ice because it sort of was really how it felt. The week that we started cleaning out the apartment, somehow, miraculously, another $800K that Tim had been working on came in. He was a rainmaker, and eventually we raised 70 million. And so we got our second life, and that was our last near-death experience, at least where people had to actually leave or be let go. By then, we were 18 months in and had a much better idea of what we were doing. We hired better. We got more clear about the niche we were focused on. We were much more focused on the problem we were solving and got a few paying clients. So we got stronger. My role naturally became more solution sales. That's the fun part of product development, helping people reach some end state and actually putting the tools in their hands to do it. We started delivering to some big companies, first in financial services like Charles Schwab, and then in high tech like Google and Cisco and Apple. I can still remember when Apple said no when I was on my lunch break and not giving up, and insisting that this online approach was the future. To my surprise, the next week they sent guys to our office and we scoped out an engagement and spent the next few months in Cupertino mapping out their made for iPod program. Eventually, we expanded into other verticals like manufacturing with Caterpillar, pharma with Novartis, and public sector with the US Navy. It was pretty great, though at the time we thought we were going way too slow. I'd been working by now for nearly 9 years at the company, and we were still only doing around 5 million ARR, which to us felt like a failure, though the company was growing nicely. But my partner was from Europe, and we had 3 kids, all under 4. And she felt that we needed to come to Europe, and there was really no room for debate. I thought it sounded interesting. And so I created a deck with a picture of Europe on it. I pitched our board on opening a European office, and I went through the whole rigmarole anyone trying to build such support is familiar with. When that inevitably felt flat, to cut a long story short, I said my goodbyes, put our minivan and our other young family stuff in a container and headed to Europe. So the second part of my background, entering the European market. Before arriving, I'd managed to cobble together an early stage VC role in Eindhoven with ASML, NXP, and the Dutch government actually as limited partners. And I also found a part-time BD role at a big Dutch tech company. But after arriving, I learned a couple of quick lessons from the school of hard knocks. First, that I had little to no credibility in this new place. I would say people like Americans in Europe, but that doesn't mean that you have any credibility. It doesn't mean that people want to work with you. So, second, adapting to life in this new place was harder than I expected. Setting up our utility bills, finding a place to live, researching and getting the kids into decent schools. And third, with the recession of 2009, 2010 in full bloom, both of my jobs went south anyway, and I had to regroup. Since we had sort of burned the ships, I still had piles of debt from grad school and not much cash. So I kept circling around the problem of finding my niche here in Europe. In the Netherlands, I did find some good companies, and the design and tech talent was basically equal to what I had experienced at my old company. But what they needed was a connector into the US, and that role became an easy one to explain for me rather than being the SaaS guy or the next gen bots guy, since that wasn't viable. In the next few years, I viewed travel as an investment in my business, plus a way to have some fun and get to know Europe better. Visiting Antwerp and Brussels and Ghent and nearby Belgium, heading to Berlin in Germany, Tallinn, Estonia, the V4 in Central Europe like Poland, Czech, Hungary. Anytime I'd visit a place, I would send cold emails and LinkedIn and fill up my calendar. I'd stay in crappy hotels, spend what I saved taking people to dinner, grabbing beers, using public transportation or Uber once it was available. I learned that Germans know Internet of Things and that Berlin is the most liberal city in Europe and that Germans have a massive sense of humor. The Estonians, that they are cyber and data science Jedis, and they make fantastic allies. And that the Dutch know commerce with nimble phrases like, what you can divide, you can multiply, versus the more ham-fisted version I grew up with, what you can divide, you can conquer. All of these new concepts found their way into my business, or at least some subconscious thing, one way or the other. On the actual projects, normally it was sort of like, you get in touch with the BD or CEO, you go to dinner, you talk about a lot of non-business stuff, you stay out too late. The next morning, everybody's got a bit of a hangover. You're mapping out things on the whiteboard. I would come back to the Netherlands, ship a proposal and order form. We'd do a kickoff. We'd start with the outbound niche, set of discovery questions, collect all the content that they had in-house, tweak the stuff that needed to be tweaked based on, no information yet, but sort of Americanizing it. And then we'd start reaching out to people in my network, trying to have those calls before the cold calls we were having. Starting outbound then into target segments via LinkedIn, email, automation, writing VSLs with the CXO or the sales leads, ramping cold outbound, using the VSLs, and beginning to advise marketing on ad buys when it worked. So we might have a couple of go-to-market workshops at some point, bring in the department leads so that there was sort of like a controlled sharing of information that people could use to adapt their particular department's product roadmap or content strategy, that kind of thing. And eventually we would organize some kind of a fun retreat or boat ride or cabin visit and invite a bunch of relevant people to join us. As the approach got more codified, the model began to work better than I'd expected. Here's that flow if you ever have any interest in reading through that. We were still bootstrapped, but in 2013, we started inviting founders and VPs from companies like Adyen, Shazam, SoundCloud, and senior execs who'd be attracted by that concept. But usually they were also potential prospects for our clients, folks like Wells Fargo in FinServe or Walmart in retail or Boeing in aerospace. We continued to do gatherings, and I'll share some more about that later. But this ends back in 2013, that first one on the left, and we've just continued doing gatherings to support our clients over the years. So the last 3 years, we did work in the markets of Central Europe, Benelux, the UK, Germany, the US, Japan, South Africa, and so forth. Given the pandemic, Brexit, GDPR, where people might see barriers, we see opportunity. And the mission now is to take this approach and get it into the hands of the market, help great companies and entrepreneurs to climb that wall of ice and find their breakthroughs. Remote market development is changing. The role of video sales and funnels in B2B is becoming fundamental. And there's very specific ways that it needs to be done, which are not obvious at first. So this is a little flow diagram that we use with clients and prospects. We start by picking a niche, building the funnel, positioning the product, testing the offer to make sure customers love what we have. It's differentiated, that people's calendars are getting filled because it's resonating. And then we scale up lead gen and then sales. Step one is, and this applies to any of the modes that Index Ventures talks about for companies expanding into the US, Pendulum, Telescope, Compass, Home Anchor. I won't go into those because you can read those. But the first thing that you're going to do when you are getting started is, and you've got your small team, your agile team that's going to work on this, is you need to isolate the niche and focus your resources. So a niche is just a group of people who share the same desire to move from state one to state two, where your offering provides the mechanism to get them to that new state. It doesn't necessarily have to do with geography. You could have two geographies that are the same niche because you've got executives in South Africa and executives in Boston that are both trying to transform their telco using AI, for example. It also isn't mean, one industry. You can have multiple industries because different industries can try to go through similar horizontal transformation. In fact, sometimes there's a lot of good lessons that are learned between them. At any rate, so that's the first step, is you need to focus your resources. So I mentioned before a little bit about Azeti. We started working with them. They had 3 to 4 million in revenue. They only had one major client in the US, which was more like a channel partner, Emerson Electric, the American industrial company. Torsten, the CEO, was a repeat entrepreneur. He'd worked at Early Bird, a German VC. He and I had worked together the first year I got to Europe and took over as the CEO of Azeti. He wanted to put his foot on the gas pedal, on the growth gas pedal. What did we do? Well, the first thing we did was we got a focus list of the top 25 IoT ecosystem partners that we thought would be good channel partners for them. So this is not a direct strategy. This is a partner strategy in this case. We took the existing assets they had, the decks, the data sheets, the case study and the like, and we wrote some outbound copy and we sent a bunch of intros to execs. Within a few days, we had our first calls, but we also needed to get some help at the top. One guy who'd spoken at one of our gatherings a couple of years earlier was Maciek Kranz, and Maciek was a leading Cisco IoT market strategy guy as the VP of corporate innovation there. We set up a meeting, shared our collateral, and over the next few months, he helped us drive across not just the open innovation program Cisco had, but also helped us steward through to an exclusive OEM partnership for Cisco's new industrial IoT product lines. Huawei was gobbling up the low end of their product lines with lower cost solutions, and Cisco needed an intelligent app they could put inside their routers. Azeti was originally a hardware, edge software, and cloud architecture company, but they ended up needing to port the edge software onto the Linux guest system of the Cisco router and would get a quarter out of every dollar sold of those industrial solutions. We continued to do our outreach to other companies. Meanwhile, developing standard sales materials, VSLs, cases, but then Cisco brought us into their partner network. Our sales tools were tailored for Cisco. We baked in battle cards. We shared videos with thousands of internal sales and solution engineers, as well as their top distribution partners like Zones. The founders and board of directors were amazed to see the market leader as a new strategic exclusive partner. When it was time to raise the next round at the time, there was very little friction. The round was closed and the money was wired. I hadn't expected that, but it was great to see the levers that we created for management to get that done. Torsten, the CEO, with his family and the head of solutions, moved to the US, and a couple of years later, they were acquired by a German industrial. By using a partner channel and repurposing the tools we built for our own sales effort, like sales battle cards and video, we got our scale for the business, not to mention the exit. So you want to isolate your niche, the group of people who have the common desire to get from one state to another. By focusing on that group, you'll end up with content that is so clearly relevant to them that they will be amazed since you are describing their world. And from a solution perspective, the better you can be at validating your assumptions, your beliefs, and providing the exact steps to solving their problem, the more trust and confidence you build. Plus, you'll be able to see if your solution actually is differentiated from other options they have. In any good VSO, including Q&A is also important. In video sales, you are not there to see their eyes or hear their questions. So you've got to go ahead and include those from the start. We include some questions here. So what's a niche? A niche is a group of people who have desire to go from state 1 to state 2. Segment is a subgrouping used more in marketing. Is your niche or segment set in stone? Absolutely not. But the more narrow your niche, the more relevant your messaging. And who should be leading this? Well, either your CXO or the business development and sales lead within the organization. After the first couple of months, you'll need to start filling someone's calendar with meetings whose comp plan is tied to revenue. The video sales letter can come from the founders or CXO or sales team. It can also help to tackle this. So that's step 1. Isolate the niche and focus your resources. Step 2, build a video sales funnel and test it using free traffic methods. So like LinkedIn prospecting is a big one, list farming, cold email prospecting, and the like. Marcel Smit, I mentioned before, one of the clients was an NLP company based in Amsterdam. They had linguists making up like a third of the company. They had zero traction in the US, but had spent a great deal of time looking at OEM opportunities like Azeti, but with Microsoft Bing. They had great customers though in Europe, KLM, Deutsche Bank, Deutsche Telekom, Movistar in Spain. We picked 3 industries where they had their best qualifications: travel, FinServ, telecom media. We picked 5 companies in the US out of those areas, just 5 for that first month. By the end of the month, we'd spoken with 4 of the 5 VPs of e-commerce, and had gotten most of our discovery questions answered. Conversations with these friendlies, most of them came from our existing network, and in large part from Berkeley, went something like this. Hey, Estrelita, thanks for chatting. Can you give us your thoughts on the best way for this NLP company to approach people in your role? Can we pitch you? Can you give us some thoughts on how we can improve? We provide some materials. We have a nice discussion. If we were in town, we'd go out to dinner, and we would take those learnings and build an outbound and webinar VSL framework, and we began to churn out video webinars. We had some amazing solutions guys in the house that knew this stuff and had been working in customer care, and were super credible when they would do these things. We made the website more industry specific and less about technology, using a marketing agency, a great marketing agency that they worked with. Within 5 months, we had a massive funnel, and we'd closed 2 of these 5 senior execs, Bank of America and United Airlines, for more than $500,000 in ARR. We'd had our advocates open up the door initially, but we still had to win the business. That was a crucial piece of building trust. I learned that by focusing on a niche, which again is a group of people that have a similar desire to get from state 1 to state 2, and getting those video sales scripts integrated into the business, cooperating with the functions of the business, but not distracting them, that played an important role. By the end of the year, we were acquired. That was not what I'd had in mind. I liked working with them, and I liked having the CEO help me with sales and hitting our revenue targets. But these things happen, and it was actually great for the company. We bolted our BD approach for NLP and social channels, and we worked with the right now SDRs, sales development reps, and AEs, account execs, and got to be part of one of the fastest growing unicorns until they were also bought. So they got bought for over $1 billion by Oracle. Together, we'd expanded upon many of the in-house outbound tools that we built at the NLP company originally, and it was a great outcome for the founders and investors. Prime Ventures, the lead investor, specifically Roll de Hoop, who had made the original introduction between me and the CEO, had in fact told me they'd not had high expectations of this company. The company had been flat until Marcel, this new CEO full of vinegar, came along. And much of that linguist dev team is still working out of Oracle's EMEA HQ in Utrecht. And one of them even came on a boat ride that we organized a couple of months ago. But what about the last 2 or 3 years, especially projects we've done during COVID? So a few examples of the recent past. Since these are more recent, I keep them shorter. I'm not going to give a ton of detail out of respect for the companies. No secret sauce, but I can explain what we did because the tactics are pretty familiar and should be familiar to you as well. So Algolytics, they had one of the largest AI deployments in Central Europe in telecom and logistics, but had no footprint in Northwestern Europe. We helped them do a market development discovery in 4 markets. The challenge that they had was that they were good at a lot of things. You need to focus, you need to demonstrate that you're the best because you're focused. It's just a lot more credible. In 6 months, less than 6 months, we helped them go from this horizontal data platform to being a narrow AI service focused on location intelligence and building a funnel in that for Germany, the UK, and Benelux. There were different solutions for different industries and business functions. The horizontal data platform market is tempting for strong AI teams, but it's pretty saturated. And oh, by the way, AWS, Google, Azure cloud providers do it. So it's not easy market to be in. In the first stage, we did outbound using LinkedIn and some email automation into the niche in Africa and Northwestern Europe. We tried a second niche, we tried a third. This is over a couple of months. We broke the rule of creating a video sales letter that was niche specific. We made it horizontal, so it was general enough to catch the interest of different groups, but it really wasn't useful. And it was sort of a big waste of time because it was just way too generic. Meanwhile, LinkedIn opt-ins were upwards of 20% and actual call bookings in the 4 to 5% range. Within 6 weeks, we had enough feedback from a couple dozen calls that helped us get a handle on the market size, the competition, the appetite of execs, and so forth. And so the management team was able to begin focusing on one niche. We had weekly meetings with marketing and solutions. They created new content, 5 new blogs, tuned the old site, created a new landing page. We kept doing calls with the execs from the lists and drafted a new video sales letter, which took about 4 to 5 weeks to draft with Pavel, their chief commercial officer. We recorded the VSL at a partner event and invited new execs who had booked time with us to join. Once the VSL was published, we prepared a full version to share and potentially could turn that into micro VSLs for outbound that the team could point at various segments within the niche. The funnel and a more focused content approach is working. Another example. So Gravity R&D, this Budapest-based deep learning service, they're active in many parts of the world. We met them via NVIDIA conference. They were famous for their research. Today, they're a pioneer in deep learning. But the challenge they had was how to position their YUSP deep learning with their existing portfolio. Deep learning, also, it's a black box, so it's not easy to demo deep learning. Outbound was with 10 executives in the US, so not a huge group. Then in Europe, the case studies, blogs, landing pages helped us to connect with 50 execs in the US and Benelux over the next period of a couple months. They co-hosted a boat cruise where Uber Eats, FedEx, and a bunch of execs and ML-related companies, including other clients like Algolytics. And even though it was storming, people had a great time together out in the Amsterdam Canal. So funnel was working, had spent 4 to 5 weeks again drafting this VSL script. The video gives a great why is it important, what is it, how do I do it, point of view over the course of 18 minutes, which is a great length for a niche and structure since it helps execs get the crib notes for deep learning. That's something that they can then take down the hallway, the digital hallway, engage their data science teams, their technical colleagues, like, hey, watch this video. Is this a direction for us? How can we help them get from their desired state, which is to, really they want to avoid missing the boat, AKA losing market share because their heads are in the sand on this deep learning stuff. So this is a way to help them avoid getting left behind. They got more focused content, clearer message for taking the customer from state 1, which is we're worried about being leapfrogged, to state 2, which is doing something that brings 20% more revenue to the business or could boost their career. The action flow and sales scripts and so forth were developed. Going more sub-niche here could be great. We'll see where they want to go. In October, along with I mentioned this boat thing that we organized with them, and the boat was packed. It was a lot of fun, and you can see the video on our site. XTPL, Quantum Computing and Advanced Manufacturing Solution. They were going to launch an office in San Jose and wanted to help semiconductor and smart material manufacturers go to the next level of nano manufacturing. They could make windows, conduct high amounts of electricity like BR glasses or windows on a Tesla to do more stuff without seeing the wires in the glass, since they were a fraction of the diameter of a human hair. We did one outbound into cold LinkedIn profiles, went back to many of the execs who joined past events, got 80 booked calls out of about a 200 company target list up front. And around the time that they went into the US, that towards the tail end of our project, their market cap went up by 50 million after being flat for like a year on the Polish stock exchange, which was pretty cool, although probably related to a lot of things they were doing well. Last example, Cinerize, 200-person company in Central Europe, setting up offices over 6 months. We tested their message for the US, showcased them via the network. This triggered their first top 5 retailer proposal request. The COO was able to open a New York office and began running tests, working with the HQ back in Europe. So those are some examples of how this video sales funnel can work. It shows how you've got heavy lifting being done by, got this video sales letter like the one that I'm presenting to you right now. You're using the automation on the top end here. And then as people get interested, you're filling in the form, then you're going into remarketing and backwards and around again. So it's very straightforward, definitely not rocket science, but easy to get lost in the weeds and forget that the main point is trying to really nail it in the messaging and to get engagement. You can really help support the junior members of the team to get the knowledge that's in the CEO or senior people's head straight in front of the prospect. And then the process of getting other decision makers on board without having to repeat yourself every single time. For example, here, where you see on the left-hand side, you've got all this manual stuff that's going on, both from the SDRs, passing to the execs, trying to figure out on the client side, how to sort of coordinate that. It just never goes smoothly. Whereas on the right-hand side, you've got these video sales letters that go deep, are super tailored, and go through a format, which hopefully by the end of this video, you'll see can be quite effective. Building a video sales funnel, testing it using free traffic methods, LinkedIn, list farming, cold email. You get yourself a strong foundational sales copy that's niche specific. It's testing the assumptions directly into the market. You're mining LinkedIn or a list of warm contacts or relationships. You're running an outbound prospecting campaign or two to drum up 5 to 50 appointments a month, whatever your level of ambition is. And then you're building your high converting landing page, video sales letters, and micro VSLs. You use a strong sales script to convert the prospects over the phone. If you can't get prospects to sign a deal, you will need to put them into remarketing and review the offer, positioning, and pricing. Consider giving a discount on the software, but not the bodies. Some setup time is required, so you cover your people's time. And if you're giving a discount, ask for a video testimonial if you do a good job. So some questions on this one. So should I build my videos for direct? Can I also have them repurposed for partners, for example? You can try that, but it makes probably more sense to put the video into the context of your channel partner. But we do these things. We worked last month with two of our clients presented as part of the Tech Tour Deep Tech program. And it was a great wraparound for us to be able to both have the credibility of going into that community and being teamed up with them, but also use the same content in the event to invite the network that our clients cared to sell into. So kind of got two birds with one stone there. How long will it take to build the first funnel? Well, it's 1 to 3 weeks if you know what you're doing and you have the right video and the funnel map. Otherwise, when you start, you've got to do discovery to get that VSL script correct. That can take a couple, 3 months to get the positioning precise enough and to be able to pull in the CEO or the head of sales time, since they're super busy, to write the script or to help them write the script. You don't want to do a generic video that just regurgitates everything people already know inside the company. You really want to be spending time writing the true positioning of the VSL script rather than doing horizontal videos or something. What should be the booking rate? 2%. If you're going through a professional network, then 3 to 5 times higher. How long does it take to get those first meetings? 7 to 14 days. You can get them pretty quick. And how much does it cost to get the data and run this experiment? Well, I think, $500 a quarter, probably, maybe less. But that's for LinkedIn. It's like, what is that, like $90 a month or something? And some automation tools, which are quite inexpensive. How do I line up appointments on LinkedIn and Facebook if I can't get cold emails to work? Add prospects as connections, then send them a second message and move them over to the form using the VSLs. So the next step, scaling up lead gen and sales using paid traffic, retargeting funnel, a sales team, and after parties, which also is AKA partnerships and affinity network. So you're running your Facebook ads, your LinkedIn ads, you're using customer lists, you're installing a retargeting pixel on the website and really trying to drive your demos down to under, say, $100 per demo. You can measure it. Once you've captured the leads, you send them a video sales letter, sales page that prompts the viewer to either book a demo or sign up for a trial. The funnel and the trials to a sales team are trained on a script that you've validated already. Then you can have sort of a party, something where you're bringing some knowledge to the executives, helping them network, strengthen their career, and meet interesting startups and technologies. Ideally, they're helping to drive the invitation list. Actually, that's the best way to do it. And you get this intimate gathering with people you know and those that you need to meet. You can scale up ad spend, start running channel partner traffic, hiring more salespeople, again, once the economics of it is making sense. When we looked at big box events before the pandemic, I was already pretty sour on this idea of folks speaking, hopping into black limos on the way to the airport after, or going to the 2% parties where only a handful of people are really allowed to go. It's just a huge time suck. You can wrap this method that I'm describing around those events. That's a lot better way to do it. Or if you're an accelerator, again, wrap this stuff around your experience. Don't depend on these mechanisms, especially the pandemic has made them even less effective. I'm sure anybody who's attended events, online events, it's really frustrating because everyone's distracted and nobody's following up the way they may have before. But you're going to get a 20 to 50% more productive approach when you're using a small team to do this outward stuff. And then the events themselves are going to give you like a 3x more relevant. So these numbers here, I'm not going to go into it here. I can explain it maybe another time, but the point is that the number of good leads that you get is very low, like, you say 13%, whereas there's a much higher rate, which is about 4x when you do these small tailored invite only things. It's just much more time efficient. And then if you're part of the hosting team or you're behind the scenes, you're going to get even more value. You're going to like double that value because literally the invitation lists are your target customers and partners. So that's just a bit here on the effectiveness of affinity networks and after parties. But once we know the content roadmap for VSLs, we work with clients to figure out their ad buy plan, use VSLs to air cover the SDRs who are out booking inbound calls. The teams are usually small, 1 or 2 people initially. Right now, they were 30 plus marketing managers in different markets who have the role to incorporate VSLs and drive awareness in their market niche. The last few years, we've invited more than 500 execs and a couple hundred tech firms and around 100 grad students from universities to some of these affinity gatherings that we've done. And we currently are really focused on recruiting some good grad and undergrads from top machine learning universities that want to learn international business development and also work in machine learning and deep tech or make an impact with deep tech. So if you're interested at all in any of that, traineeships for young talent, let me know, because scaling is also dependent on the people you got, and we can train them up and then you can hire them if you like them. You're going to scale up using lead gen and paid traffic retargeting, a sales team, partners. You start running your Facebook ads, your LinkedIn ads using customer lists and target groups. You install a pixel on the website, run aggressive retargeting ads to drive demos, try to get that down under $100 per demo. You measure it. You don't hire people until you've achieved it or you've gotten something that you're comfortable with there efficiency-wise. Co-host some gatherings, share some knowledge. It's a great way to build relationships. As we come out of the pandemic, everybody's going to be like a sponge trying to reconnect with others. And so there's going to be a 2 or 3 year window where you can literally refresh a great ecosystem of people around you, and then hire your salespeople, your SDRs or students, teach them the script, get them doing 4 to 6 calls a day and make it rain. Or if they're students, maybe not quite, that same level of effectiveness, but certainly on the front end of getting meetings. Who doesn't want to talk to a grad student, that's helping deep tech companies be successful in the world we're living in today? I think a lot of execs will take the call. So Q&A around scaling up lead gen and sales, using these different techniques, questions. So how long does it take to validate the cold traffic funnel? A couple of weeks. Will paid ads work for my niche? Generally, yes. Everyone is on LinkedIn, Facebook, or Google, so you can upload custom lists and run targeted traffic to your niche. Key is to find the relevant audience. I have a marketing person here in-house. Shouldn't they be doing this? Yes, they should. However, this stuff is complicated for them to do it by themselves. You need to have them working with an expert to get it off the ground and align the content roadmap to be sure you're tackling executives in the different markets, doing that in a way that they're gonna like it. We recommend that the CEO or founder validate the paid traffic funnel before bringing in extra help. So it's really rigorous. And we also recommend that they bring in an expert while they're setting up their funnel. Can't a digital marketing agency do this? Well, they can try, but it rarely works. The success of your funnel is dependent on this copywriting and targeting and this iterative process of knowing how to sort of make executives comfortable, get them to share their perspectives with you, and then capturing that and improving the in-house collateral. The only person who truly understands your market enough to write your effective VSLs or ads is you. Outsourcing that to a digital marketing agency will probably end with you wasting money and time. So do you see that by isolating the niche, focusing the resources, then as a second step, building a video sales funnel, testing it with free traffic methods like outbounds or existing relationships, and then step 3, scaling up lead gen and sales using paid traffic, retargeting funnel, and a sales team and partners or retreats or parties, that you can go from 0 to 1 million in ARR in less than 12 months? Well, we believe that you can. How to do it? Well, option number 1 of how to go from 0 to 1 million in a remote market using this telescope approach is you do this yourself. And that's what everyone's out there doing right now. And if you have the in-house people and the experience to pull it off, but it could take a long time to isolate the niche. Hiring is risky. Most accelerators are too generic, and you need to really have your own approach. You could struggle to build your initial funnel and validate it with free sources if you don't have strong copywriting skills, but the funnel would get a false negative. You could struggle with outbound prospecting, getting the wrong message, the wrong tools, the wrong sequence. You could struggle with validating cold traffic and scaling. It's extremely hard to line up all these pieces properly. You have to spin multiple plates, and if you've never done it, there's a good chance that you're going to fail. The other option that you have is that you could work with us and do that over the course of 4 to 12 months to help you set up and validate your funnel. Again, who's this presentation for? This is a presentation today for SaaS companies with a working product that are scaling up. This is a video for the deep tech companies with a working product and they're scaling up, or it's for executives in pre to Series D plus that are validating or revalidating their markets. You can find all these case studies on our website. We've got lots and lots of case studies. We have testimonials. This is a testimonial from Roll to Hoop, the VC I mentioned. I made the introduction to the NLP company that we worked with. There are lots of other examples: Hippo, Cinnamon out of Japan, and AI, Eagle Eyes doing encrypted data sharing out of Japan, Privacy Check, Netis out of Slovenia in data mining and crypto, as well as the XDPL example. This is a picture of the Cisco CEO announcing Zeti as one of their partners. You can see them right next to the Apple logo. And this is us hanging out, partying afterwards on University Ave. I think that may be across the street from the wine bar, if you know that area. More testimonials. That's Ronald Monach, one of my favorite Dutch entrepreneurs who ended up moving to the Bay Area. These are examples of spotlights we've done. We did this last month with Tech Tour. We hosted the Growth Insights session where we were able to have our 2 clients, their Algolytics and Gravity, share between 10 and 20-minute videos, which they now have as sort of evergreen content that they can reuse. Lots of growth insights from CEOs who grew. So Qgo, that's Marcel on the left, and then the founder of Shazam, Chris Spartan, on the right, and then a whole boatload of companies that we've showcased, from iTribe that exited to Facebook, to Platform SH, to SwiftKey, lots of other really interesting companies presenting and getting videos and then having the ability to use those videos in their marketing. Lots of past retreats in the last few years. Here's some photographs of what we did in Antwerp, where we had Uber Eats, ex-exec there, H2O, AI companies, a bunch of interesting folks. Here's the agenda that we had. So you can see we're covering growth topics over and over and over again. We're getting lots of interesting AI enterprise companies presenting, capturing those videos, and getting the senior executives who are managing the transformations within industry. So this one was in Antwerp. So we had some Dutch and Belgian companies. A lot of these guys actually were remote. 2018 at the Microsoft Reactor, again, roundtables for AI discussions for people. Here's a bunch of, you can't really see this, but if you pause the video, you'll see a ton of great organizations, ranging from Andreessen Horowitz was there to Arunda or Sentience out of Belgium. It's a really good AI company. And I'm just showing you this so you see this is not, we're not making this stuff up. It's sort of blurry. So sorry about that. 2017, again, bringing invitations there to Andreessen Horowitz's office, meeting with the Estonian mafia, getting them involved, UC Berkeley women investors, the Felicious Ventures that had just raised a 500 million euro fund. We had the managing director there, founder of the fund. So lots and lots of nice relationships being built over the years, mainly by taking great European companies and putting them in front of people that they need to meet. Again, lots of other retreats. So the quick and dirty benefits here: validate your US and Europe sales funnels quickly, build up scaffolding, get your revenue go quickly, keep pressure on the niche, hire the right people at the right time, give them a playbook that they need to succeed, be capital efficient, prove the investment thesis by closing flagship clients. That'll help you close more funding at a better pre-money valuation, so your founders can hold on to more of the company and build an incredible SaaS or deep tech business. What are the features? And you can go through these in more depth later, but I'll just kind of fly through them. There's this outbound and video sales letter concept. There's the scaffolding. How do you get the flow going with the structured landing pages, the sales scripts, the email cadence for the CRM, the opt-in pages for cold traffic, doing one-on-one reviews of key assets, recording Q&A calls that we have. There's an action flow. There's literally a set of Visios that will take you through step by step on doing this stuff, both in the initial stages and then also when you're getting good at it. There's a targeting methodology. How do you include different segments, and how do you ensure that you're using your existing network in combination with the cold work? There are VSL roadmaps or content roadmaps and ways of thinking about how to sort of, knock the cover off the ball in those. There's, of course, then the scale mastery, how to plan unpaid and paid inbound traffic campaigns, how to build your sales team, how to hire, train BD and growth people, how to bring in young graduate students that are the AI talents of the future and have them become part of your organization. We do go-to-market workshops. That's another feature. So where we cover lots of these interesting topics that are needed to help the management team stay on the same page and get the different departments working together well. Another feature is there's distribution partners. So again, Tech Tour has been great in letting us present growth insights during their programs. And in addition, we've been able to work with them as part of their selection team. So, that's me in the upper right, mainly helping them with partnerships. That's really looking at the cloud and data companies around the world and how to align those with the community. And all those pictures there that you can't really read, those are investors in deep tech, mainly across Europe, from a bunch of corporates and VCs that you've heard of. Again, we're not into investing so much, but we're running investment programs, but the networks are always really helpful. Another feature is this affinity network. We've helped facilitate over 5,000 meetings over the last, say, 8 years, and have had 500 really senior attendees at our micro gatherings that we've done. We've got a handle on why smaller events make sense. And we've studied a lot of the big events, and we've really looked at how do you squeeze as much value out of networking as you can. We've got examples of going off to Calistoga, where we've gone 2 or 3 times with companies after we finish up with some of the other programs. There's this data cruise that we did back in October, just before we went back into lockdown. This is the 2-sided postcard that we would hand out at a much larger event so that we could do kind of a side thing, which is a nice way to do it as long as you have a good relationship with the organizers of the big event. This is, again, going to show you the types of people that were there. I took the names out, but you can see the lead data science at Albertine, which is one of the major grocery chains here in Europe, in the Netherlands, managing director of FedEx Digital, Uber Eats head of machine learning, who is over here out of Washington, D.C., SAP's global VP of intelligent enterprise. So a lot of really super senior folks. Another feature is a Slack channel. Another feature that we're working on right now is a video library, taking all of these concepts that we present in our growth insights, making them more and more self-service so that you can help educate your team on both sales, international business, but also how to leverage AI. I mean, it's crazy how many applications exist now that are decoupled, like Otter AI to go speech to text with your videos. You can use copy AI to write your headlines and your copyrights. You can use Grammarly I actually used Grammarly for this presentation to help me be more in the active sentences and so forth. Cognism, where they're doing GDPR lead gen. Gong, where they're doing, studying the team dynamics and patterns of good teams versus not good teams, and trying to get all the salespeople to be equally great. So there's just a lot of knowledge that you're going to want to have for your team. And if you're not bringing this in and sort of like drip, filtered views, it's really overwhelming and it's hard to know where to focus, but we can bring all of that to you in kind of a bow. And then again, I mentioned, to me, for me, I think about what's motivating me. I really feel that a lot of the solutions we need in the world right now exist. And the best thing we can be doing is helping the good companies that we want to see grow, helping them, and then getting the next generation involved with them. Like, to me, get these young people behind the steering wheel and help them bring their passions to bear, their intelligence, their current education. And so that's another thing that I would really love to work with you on, or anyone that's interested in that same idea. So the options, they boil down to a couple things. One is this market development discovery project. It's typically 6 months. You can do it in as short as 4, but 6 is really what you want to have. You have a couple of months to sort of codify and get everything operating properly. There's a land expand protocol. It's more 12 months. Anyway, you're going to need to use market development discovery first, because that's where you get all of these learnings. And then you can also do, if you're wanting to just pull something off the shelf, you're going to an event, you're going through an accelerator, you're going to do something where you're going to invest a lot of time into a particular network, but you're not wanting to have them drive it. You want to drive your own needs. That's something that we can work with you on as well. And I think that's a great and unique way of approaching the events that are pretty crappy these days, and accelerator programs, which again have never done great on the growth side, just for a bunch of reasons. This provides much more granular information. You can look at this yourself later. This is a summary, one single slide of all those features that I went through in terms of the value that they deliver and what they are. So you can see that on one list. And then, rolling up the value, the benefits of the phase 1 or the discovery activity, I'll say that that's around 165K. We could sit down and arm wrestle over it, but I'm pretty sure that the stuff I'm talking about, even just we're talking execution, we're not talking about the value it creates for the business, which can be easily 10x, 20x, 50x if you land the right companies. So I think this is a fair estimate. And then the phase 2, this longer term thing, again, another 150K, that's more unlimited targets. So we're talking over 300K in value. This is a really concentrated thing of all the patterns, from all these different companies that have worked with us and that have also come in and provided their advice. And the price, I'm not going to put it in here because I'd rather talk with you or book a call if you're interested. Let's just say it's like 6-fold cheaper. We only have so much capacity. We can't do tons of these. I mean, the most we've ever worked with is like 8 to 10 companies is like kind of our max right now, although we do want to build the business more over the next year, get up to 20 or 30 that we can do. Willing to offer also this idea of we'll do a mapping of our network and the Berkeley Alumni Network for your target niche. Let us know your industries, role types, geographies, and give us a chance to open up our network and share a list with you and show you what types of people we think we can. And then secondly, we'll help you add fuel to your future growth funding, some introductions to make a list of those networks and investors, like this deep tech program that we were part of at Tech Tour. There's 40 deep tech investors right there. And we can talk with you about your approach, review your deck and so forth. But again, we're not fundraisers. I've tried doing that, 8, 9 years ago, and terrible business to be in if you're not driving the growth patterns like we talked about here. So if you're willing to do that, we'll throw in the fundraising stuff sort of for free. We'll guarantee it in the first 30 days. If you're not happy, you don't need to pay us, and you can walk away. You can also opt out at 4 months if you're not satisfied. And in general, anybody that works with us, if they give us a full 1 month warning, so we can kind of get our legs, and if we've got to redeploy people and these different growth consultants and SDRs redeployed, you have a little time to do that. So we appreciate that. Some quick questions. Can we help with board level support? Absolutely. We can give you some slides. This project is typically something you can decide on yourself, but certainly between that discovery project, the first 4 to 6 months, and the full board next 12 months, if you want to go that route, which is, I think, where we've seen quantum leaps happen, then you want to have that sort of argument there prepared, and we can help with that. You're starting with a 12-month land and expand project. Yeah, we can do that. Although anyway, you're going to be doing market dev discovery, which is 4 to 6 months. So after discovery phase 1, then what? Go to market protocol, moves you from discovery to scale. So that's the sales team stuff, that's ad buys and so forth. What if we already have revenue from flagships in the remote market and we have a small team there? Can we still use this? Well, sure, you can actually. You can create more air cover for them. You can generate more really targeted leads in your most important segments. You can build out a portfolio of 5 or 10 or 20 VSLs that are really focused on those niches, and will give your army of BDRs or salespeople just a much stronger punch. What if we have industry-leading clients in our regional market, but not in the US? Well, that's actually a great scenario to have. That's sort of like the Hugo NLP example, where just walking in the door to the executives in the States and saying, here are 3 known brands in your vertical that are getting huge value out of this. There could even be relationships that they have with those companies. Sometimes these executives have global either alliance partners, like in travel, they have that kind of thing. What if you're still trying to figure out the MVP? This methodology absolutely can apply to it. If you're looking for introductions and you want to do it really quick, kind of a quick hit project, give us a call. We're already in the market with top clients. We have a team in place, and we can beat local incumbents. How can we use this service? Well, there's 2 things. Either you're going to transform your VSL sales operation, because that's really something I think is going to be coming in as a much more important thing the next few years. Delta between your existing operation and your new operation is something which we can help with. And then I think people underestimate this idea of exit segments. If you're running a company for 10 years and you're 200 people, 300 people, 500 people, and you're beginning to think more seriously about the exit the next 2 to 3 years, you go to these guys who are deal makers, and they're not thinking about how you deliver milestones or successfully do milestones in order to help the exit. They're thinking about who can they introduce you to just to exit you. And it's sort of like the fundraising thing. Why would you want to do that without first looking at how you can blow out your perceived value over the course of 12 to 18 months? And then, even talking to these segments, since it's just really another niche, that can really help you with your exit. There's a bunch of definitions we have in here. What is digital transformation? What is growth 2.0? What's a chief revenue officer, data science, et cetera. But in the end, we've tried to cover here in this session some useful insights around compounded growth, that in the game that we're in, where equity and bonuses matter, compounded growth is your friend. How to use a small team like a startup, how to engage a niche, steward your resources, think in bets, using senior affinity networks, especially towards the beginning of your process, to get some great quotes and get some good insights, maybe some deals. Capturing insights in the remote market and creating long VSLs like this one here today, so that outbound BDRs can cut through the noise in the market and leverage all the knowledge your executives and founders have that can help them so much. Building a niche advantage using AI and automation, that's a topic that we think is going to be really interesting the next many years. We gave a lot of cases, we gave action flows, we gave a 3-step approach that we believe works. We shared the expansion framework by index. Go take a look at that or do a YouTube search and watch some videos. It's really interesting, just seeing that no matter what you are, if you're wanting to be in that market, then there's no way around using a small team and these types of tactics, although they won't spell it out for you because they haven't done it this way. And mostly what they've done is they've given huge funding rounds to these companies. And they've actually, I don't want to judge how they're doing it, but I just would say this approach that we're taking is for the 99%, the rest of us, sort of the 80th percentile companies up to the 99 percentile, not that 1%, because those guys are in a different league altogether. How to do this yourself, we've covered that. How to do it with us, we've explained that as well. And there are those 3 options you can have. You can either come in straight with a market development discovery project, these 4 to 6 month projects, very straightforward, very targeted, outbound VSLs, making those more current and focused on that niche. And then when you're hitting the trigger, you're able to scale things up. So we gave you your options. We tried to answer some questions and answers. I hope it was useful. Please let me know. Reach out. I salute the hard work that you're out there doing. It's all about working together on stuff.